Hello everyone and welcome back to another math video. Today we're going to be looking at these types of problems that you see up on the screen where the base, the big number at the bottom, is negative and then you have an exponent. And you know what happens. Just a reminder that this is the full lesson version of this video, so we're going to go sort of in depth and look at a bunch of different examples. And so if you're looking for the short version where we just hit the main points, I will link that in the description below. Before attempting this lesson, you should already know how to multiply and divide positive and negative numbers, and you should already know about how exponents work. And so I will link those in the description if you need them. All right, so we have some problems up on the screen here, and I wrote what's different. Okay, and hopefully we immediately realize that one has parentheses, one does not. Okay, and the parentheses make a big deal. In fact, they completely will change your answer. So let's see how this works. All right, so here's a problem with no parentheses. And the way it works, if there are no parentheses, your answer will always be a negative answer. Always, 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 always. Okay, and here's the reason why. Think of this as, so we know it's 2 times 2 times 2, and then the negative gets attached to the first number in the sequence, right? So now you do negative 2 times 2 is negative 4 times, and then you bring down your 2. Negative 4 times 2 is negative 8. This is the final answer. All right, here's our cool clock for today, which means that it's time for you to practice what you just learned. Go ahead and pause the video and try these two problems up on the screen. And when you're ready, you can unpause and we will check your answers. Okay, now that you've had a chance to work these problems, let's take a look. For this problem on the left, number 1, you should have done 1 times 1 times 1 times 1 times 1 with a negative thrown in, and when you multiplied all of these out, you should have just gotten negative 1 final answer. For number 2, negative 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, this is negative 4 times 4, which is negative 16 final answer. All right, now let's take a look at what happens with parentheses. When there are parentheses, okay, it could be positive, it could be negative, it depends. So this is negative 1 times negative 1 times negative 1 times negative 1. And you'll see here, right, every number gets the negative symbol. All right, and so now you have to multiply these out. Negative 1 times negative 1 is positive 1. And this negative 1 times negative 1 is also positive 1. So now you're doing positive 1 times positive 1. This is a positive 1 answer. Okay, it's time for you to practice what you just learned. Go ahead and pause the video and try these two problems on your own. And when you're ready, we will check your answers. Okay, now that you've had a chance to try these problems, let's check your solutions. For this problem on the left, number 1, this would be negative 1 times negative 1 times negative 1. This gives me positive 1 times a negative 1. So your final answer should have been negative 1. For the second problem, this is saying negative 5 times negative 5, which would give me positive 25 final answer. And what I want to point out here is that maybe you picked up on a pattern here, all right? If the exponent is an odd number, the answer will be a negative answer. If the exponent is an even number, then the answer will be a positive number. For those of you who want the patterns, you can always just multiply it out, but that's sort of a shortcut. All right, a couple of reminders here. We covered this in a previous video, but the same holds true even if the base is negative, right? Any number to the 0 power is 1. Now what you have to be careful of is this right here, okay? Because you might say, oh, any number to the 0 power is 1. Yes, but we just learned that without parentheses, the answer is always negative, right? And so actually this gives me negative, or not negative 1, negative 5. I mean, yes, negative 1. What am I saying? It's 1, but it becomes a negative, all right? And then over here on the right, somehow this got cut off, but this should say any number to the first power is itself, right? So negative 2 to the first power is just negative 2. All right. It's time for you to practice what you just learned. Go ahead and pause the video and try these 3 problems on your own. And when you're ready, go ahead and unpause and we will check your answers. Okay, now that you've had a chance to work these problems, let's check your solutions. For number 1, should have gotten negative 1. Any under 0 power is 1, but remember that with the negative and no parentheses, it's negative 1. For number 2, should have gotten negative 1, because any number to the first power is just negative 1. And for number 3, negative 3 to the first power doesn't matter that it is in parentheses or not. This is negative 3. All right, that is it for today. I hope you all have a good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.